Hello and welcome to the Turn 4 podcast, the 60th episode of the Turn 4 podcast. I am your host, Dan Maldonado. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. This podcast comes from two lifelong fans of IndyCar and other forms of motorsport. Before we get started, let me introduce you to my co-host, Tim Reiner. Hey, Timmy.
Hello, Dan.
What's going on?
Oh, it's a fun Monday after a lot of racing on Sunday. So it's a great Monday. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hey, we got a message from Charlie Mack, C5, up in the beautiful wilderness of Minnesota, right before we went on air here, and I need to address this. I did not go to St. Pete. I can't say I'm apoplectic about it because I'm no longer apoplectic about it, but I'm still a little sorrowful of this whole fact. So snowstorm blew through southeast Michigan Friday late afternoon. And after sitting on my Delta flight for almost 2 hours, they canceled the flight, which is fine out of an abundance of caution. I appreciate that. I'd rather them cancel that than me, being spread across I-94 in Middle Belt. But nonetheless, that's what happened. So I do appreciate it. Unfortunately, the reschedule, right, the rebook the following day, I would have missed everything on Saturday. So it just doesn't make any sense for me to be there.
Yeah.
For race day only to turn around and come back home, because that was my intention. I wasn't making it a vacation of it, and I was trying to tuck it in to, in between a couple of work trips.
Yeah.
So, but
and I know, Dan, you were super excited to go. So obviously at this point, would not be able to make it. I
even bought sunscreen.
You did?
Yeah, and I never wore sunscreen, like on purpose.
We just bought sunscreen when we were in Austin. Remember?
You did.
I guess I did. Yeah. And I actually brought it home.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's another story for a different day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the storm you referenced, we had thunder snow.
Yeah. So
there was lightning, thunder, and it was snowing like unbelievable. Like it was a blizzard out there. So
yeah, we got 7 inches of snow. It was wet and heavy.
And
what we got. You got more.
We got 12.
Yeah.
So, and you were I was texting you all day Friday going, you think you're going to make it? Do you think you're like, it's fine, but it ended up not happening. So bummer, would have loved to use them. But the weather wasn't, Mother Nature had other thoughts for you.
Yeah. Well, the Turn 4 Productions legal team is getting ready to send Mother Nature a sternly written note.
So, I saw something you sent me.
I did. It was our press release in regard to the upcoming litigation. So I did send Mr. Carney from Green Savory Promotions a message thanking him for approving our media request and letting him know that we wouldn't be there. But I just at least wanted to do that. I felt like the right thing to do. So I did.
Yeah, makes sense.
So Tim, it was a crazy St. Pete. It's never really been like that before, right? I mean, what
bizarre.
I think two entities are probably pretty happy coming out of that St. Pete. Number one, the producers of 100 Days to Indy, because they got some delicious storylines now, right?
For sure. Yeah.
And
definitely.
Number two, whoever it is that Andretti Autosport uses to insure their cars.
Yeah. There's a lot of damaged cars for sure.
Yep.
For that team and other teams too, wiped out their whole lineup.
Meyer Shank.
Yeah, Meyer Shank and AJ Foyt, right?
Yeah.
All gone.
Yeah, a lot of broken Dillard.
So think that aerial of the junkyard?
Yeah, how crazy.
Never seen that before.
Yeah. So thank God we got a month between races so everybody can get themselves back healthy and get the cars together and everything else. So
yeah, with that many accidents, I'm glad no one was seriously injured. Obviously, people took some bumps and bruises, Harvey being one and Castro Neves being the other. And I'm sure there's a few other egos that were bruised that need to be, sewn back up. But overall, it was exciting.
It was exciting. That's for sure. And as we did last year, toward the latter half of the season, we're going to do our Power 5 teams where you and I go through the top 4 ranked teams from the race, and then you and I each pick our own 5th that is revealed here right on the podcast, because I don't know who you picked and you don't know who I picked.
No, but I got one housekeeping item before we get into the show. We got a note from Vicky asking about our fantasy league.
Oh,
Uh,
we didn't do it this year.
we didn't do it, but it's still out there, and two people on the two of the folks have already picked for St. Pete. So
For real?
yeah, so I think we need to log in, and we'll start ours starting in Texas. We're gonna do that,
Okay. Yeah, that's
and
fine.
then and anybody else that wants to join. So Vicky, to answer your direct message, yeah, we're gonna do it. We're just a little behind on it, so we're gonna do it
We'll get
for
in there.
Texas and beyond.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good.
All right.
Hey, kicking it off with Chip Ganassi Racing, and I don't know what you had for dinner today, but I had a bit of crow. And the reason why I had a little bit of crow is because I did not pick, unlike you,
Mhm.
Marcus Ericsson in my top 10 in the season championship. And lo and behold, he wins this race first out of the gate. So just proves I don't know what I'm talking about. I just, I have a podcast and a microphone. That's
Yeah,
about
just
it.
tell everybody whatever
That's my
whoever Dan
clairvoyance.
picks, go the other way.
Yep. So I do want to say this, though. I did see some bologna sandwich on Twitter that talked about Marcus didn't deserve that one. Right? I hate this notion that, the only guys who deserve or the only driver that deserves to win the race is the one that dominates the race. You know what, dude? All you got to do is lead the last lap.
It's the one that counts.
That's all it is. Dario
Yeah.
Franchitti has what, 3 Indy 500s all under yellow? Who cares?
Yeah.
He's a Indy 500 champion.
Yeah.
Nobody will take that away from him.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, I don't like that notion either. He was
Yeah.
there all day, started fourth. If you're there all day, you're in the hunt. Someone has a little bobble. It's yours for the taking. It's
Got to
just
be
the way
ready.
racing
Yeah.
works.
That is how
Yeah.
racing works, right?
Yep. That's the way it's always worked. So I think he's well deserving of the win,
Absolutely.
and happy that he got it. So yeah, you kind of look at how that played out there at the very end. He was closing in too, so there was going to be a battle, and Pato ended up having something with the engine and
Yeah.
got by him. So I don't like that notion either.
Marcus takes another win, fourth win in his IndyCar career. And all of his wins, except for the Indy 500, have been in red flagged races, chaotic
Yeah.
races.
I saw that stat and I was like,
Yeah.
they forgot one race that he won that there wasn't a red flag. But yeah, I guess if it works, it's the color of his car. I don't know. I just think it's just coincidence. Has
Yeah.
nothing to do with anything, but good for him, and way to stay steady and strong, and way to sort of lead that group. You figure he started fourth and picked up the 3 positions he needed. So he led the team from a qualification standpoint. So no
Yes.
slouch by any means.
Nope.
That makes me think, and I'm not trying, Marcus Ericsson, I don't know where he's at in his contract. I'm not trying to get in silly season, but he's a contender. You look at this win and you go, okay, is he finally, gotten in a position where he's going to compete regular for podium spots? Could be his year. Who
Could
knows?
be. And the only one that's going to capitalize on that is you, because I don't even have him in my top 10. You have him ninth, by the way.
Yeah, I do. I got him a little further back. So we'll see how it
struggling
goes.
the rest of the season. Who normally struggles in the beginning of the season is Scott Dixon, right?
Mhm.
Usually a little quiet starter, right? Until he
Yep.
gets going there. Strong start for Dixie with a third place finish here at St. Pete. Tim, do you realize he's never won at this track?
Yeah, I kind of heard them talking about it. I didn't realize that, I guess, going into the event, but yeah, it's one of those. I guess it goes right to your point. If you're a slow starter, you're not going to win in St. Pete because it's
Right.
typically the first race
First
of the
race.
year, unless it's a strange COVID year or something like that. So
Yeah.
it's a good finish, solid finish.
Yeah. Led 3
they had their-
laps. He was always lurking. He was never really in for,
Yeah,
the deal.
hmm He looked good.
He
He
did
looked
look
like
good.
same Scott Dixon. Seem like he's aged a bit.
No, I
Can
know,
wheel the
yeah.
car around the track as I think everybody expected him to. But to come out with a third place, starting ninth, you got to like it.
Yeah.
And I think he was even pleasantly surprised. Sorry to-
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I saw something where he was happy about it. He was happy they came off the trailer well.
Mhm.
And last year they had some struggles in qualifying, not as bad as other teams, but they were they didn't hit the mark like every week in and week out. And you saw last year Dixon get upset with the team on certain occasions, and this season seems to be starting off very well.
Yep. Alex Pillow, 8th place. Clean day, relatively low key for Alex, right? Started
Hmm.
7th, finished 8th. So probably was, chasing after it a little bit. Maybe didn't have the setup as dialed in as maybe Dixon and Erickson.
Yeah, but he looked strong. He did look
He looked
strong,
good.
which surprises me
Of
that
course he
he's
did.
back in eighth on a finish.
Yeah. 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 A lot of strong contenders out there. So I mean, 8th place is is the best he could do, apparently, right?
Hmm.
Um, the other Marcus rounds out the team, right? The bookmark here, but strong finish, wouldn't you say? 11th place for the rookie.
Yeah, very good. You got the best equipment in the business, so obviously first time out, and obviously on a tight street circuit where a lot can happen, as we saw. And to be steady and consistent, I think his goal was just to get through the race. To kind of see where he came out, and he did well. He improved
Where did
upon
he
where he started.
start? Started 13th.
Yeah, got a
So
couple
kind of
places.
kind of in that same vicinity. And with everything else that was going on too, that's a pretty good finish.
Yeah,
It's a pretty, and I like that green
yeah,
car, by the way. That green Ridgeline car or whatever that he was driving. I thought that's pretty cool.
yeah. It doesn't look like a Chip Ganassi car though. It's
Yeah,
kind of
I know,
bizarre to
I
see
know.
it
Yeah,
for
yeah.
me. But yeah,
Um, First win at St. Pete by Ganassi in about 10 years, which is also another crazy stat.
it's very crazy.
There's only 2 teams that have won the championship in the last 10 years. It's Penske and Ganassi. So you would think that they'd
They
be
would have some.
swapping out these wins. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they got it together. Were they the fastest cars all weekend long? No, but they were.
No, but you know who were, and you know where they finished. We'll get to that later.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do know who that was. But they strong showing. You almost had all your cars in the top 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yep.
in this type of field, that is pretty impressive. So, and with the chaos that went on, that I'm sure we're going to talk about,
Oh, yeah.
cars getting T-boned and then 2 in the air. It's tough outing. You got a lot of cars out on contact. Um, Almost 10, I think, if I'm looking at the list, but I got to count those. But Chip Ganassi has got to be happy. The team's got to be happy. They roll into Texas, where they've been pretty strong, is my
It'll
understanding.
be good.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And Sato, right? Sato behind the wheel. So look
Yeah,
forward to that. It won't be boring. That's for sure.
which they've only signed Sato to 2
Yeah, that was surprising to hear, wasn't it?
ovals. Yeah, that was
So maybe
surprising.
Armstrong's, possibly in for Iowa and Gateway.
Yeah. They haven't made a
Worldwide
decision, right?
Technology Raceway. Yeah, and it just hasn't been confirmed yet.
Or Center, if you listened to the last episode.
Yeah, no, love it.
But yeah, so we'll see what happens on that front. So I wish I would have known that going into my rookie of the year picks, but we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah. Second place team, Arrow McLaren. Much has been made, of course, of this team expanding to 3 cars. They've hired about 40 people. They've talked about that a lot in the last couple of weeks. And this is really the first year of the full McLaren treatment, meaning a more F1-like approach to engineering and engineering support. And so far, it seems to have paid off. Second place, Pato O'Ward. Pato was assuredly on his way to his 5th IndyCar win until a plenum fire momentarily stalled the engine. Tim, have you ever heard of a plenum fire in IndyCar?
I think I have. Yes.
Have you?
Yes,
I've heard
I
of
have.
plenum explosions, right? Like back in the 1,000 horsepower Honda days when I think it was Gilles de Ferran had a big Honda explosion one time and it blew the plenum and the bodywork off the car, but never heard of this.
Okay. Maybe the
I
fire
thought this was
portion.
an over rev is what I thought it was.
Yeah, over rev, or I heard it could have been I touched the wrong button for a second.
Sounded like it, didn't it? When they did the onboard, sounded like he clicked the
Yeah, there were some thoughts on that,
speed
and then they
limiter. Yeah.
tried to correct that. Yeah, it could have been. Do you hit the boost button, right? Or do you hit the pit rev limiter button? I don't know.
Yeah.
But at the end of the heartbreaking, right?
Sure.
That's heartbreaking either way. You just whatever the cause was, which they're saying it was this plenum fire. So
Yeah.
I think I've heard of it. Maybe.
I never have. Nonetheless, Award showed a remarkable turnaround from years past in his ability to conserve tires. So if this is able to continue going forward, this is going to serve him well, and he's going to be in the mix, I think, week in and week out.
Yeah. And speaking of tires, there were marbles all over the place. He got
Yeah, they're
offline just a
bad,
little
aren't they?
bit.
Yeah,
And I was surprised there was no sweeping. Typically they'll sweep, but I'm okay
especially
now.
with all the yellows.
Yeah,
It's not like they
typically you
didn't
get
have an opportunity. Yeah,
yeah, typically you see the sweeper out there, especially on that front straight. You couldn't even pull out on a restart to get especially late in the race to get an advantage going down the front straight to go under somebody. You'd get out there and the back end would go everywhere. We saw that with Dixon on an occasion. So yeah, that it's good that he can conserve tires. It seemed like, there's a few that fell off, one being Herder that fell off on his first stint with the green tires. Are we calling them? What are we calling those now? I know they're calling them
the
red
alternates.
alternates. So he fell off and lost a lot of spots. So good to see Award staying up there. He picked up one spot from qualifying, but yeah, it was his race to win there at the end.
Yeah. Fourth place for Alexander Rossi. I think this result for Rossi surprises both of us, because I think that our anticipation was it was going to be a slow start for him, right? New team. I don't want to say gel, Tim, because you always say that and tries me
Yeah, they're
bananas.
gelling.
Takes time to get acclimated to a new team, new car, new manufacturer, So fourth place, dude, I'd take it. I wonder what Alex thought he would finish his first race with,
Yeah,
if you asked him,
I don't. Yeah, I
honestly,
don't
right?
know. I'm sure
Yeah.
he's happy about it. He always wants to win, though. You get
Sure.
his demeanor and how he sort of goes about talking about racing. I would just think he's maybe like, man, it was good, but could have done better, right?
Yeah.
Like, but at the end of the day, you got to be happy with that
The all
result. And it seemed,
black outside of the uniform suits him,
yeah,
right? The black jeans and the black shirt and all that stuff
yeah,
suits him.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's totally his personality sort of
Yep.
coming around from the clothing perspective too. But good for him. I curious to see what the rest of the season brings, as we spoke about last week. And great result by Rossi.
Yeah. 19th place by Felix Rosenquist. He had a good start to the weekend, had a decent qualifying effort in 8th place. Just unfortunately, he got squeezed by what we now know as his BFF, Scott Dixon. And it was mostly game over. I mean, he did rejoin after some repairs, and I think he finished, 49 laps down. But
Yeah.
Felix was good. He was good, and he's going to be good. I think that whole team is going to be good this year.
Yeah, he looked he was fast, right? He just
Mhm.
missed out on the fast six, but
Yep.
overall, if you don't get caught up in that, I think you have a good day. And that was very early on. He got caught up in that, and they ended up fixing the car to get out there to do some laps because attrition was going to be big, and they were looking at the championship fight all the way down that
Yep.
Astor Cup.
Yeah. Tim, third place team, Juncos Hollinger Racing.
Who predicted this?
Wow.
Yeah,
It's
pretty
not
amazing.
me. Yeah, not me.
Nobody, I don't. There's not a team.
Yeah.
Nobody thought Juncos Hollinger Racing would be this far up in the.
So we've already talked about Ganassi. We've already talked about Arrow. I don't think anybody would have been thinking, we would have, or we'd be talking about Juncos, right? Other than maybe an honorable mention in this particular case. Certainly
Yeah.
before we would be talking about Penske, and certainly before we'd be talking about Andretti. But 5th place from Callum Ilott. I mean, the guy overperformed the small team last year and seems to have picked up that same head of steam this year.
Mhm.
This is Callum's first top 10 finish in IndyCar.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a shock to either one of us, though, right?
No, I don't think so.
Little team that could. We've always enjoyed this team.
Yeah, but that's overperforming in my guesstimation based on just where they're at. But they did this last year, so maybe it's not as big of a surprise as we're making it out to be. But Callum's got to wheel that car, right, to get
He's
in this
good.
spot.
He's good.
He is good. You
Started 22nd.
22nd. Yes. And you come all the way up to 5th. So everything has to go your way to make up that many spots. You got to miss a lot of accidents that happened here at St. Pete. Kept his nose clean, and a top 5. That's huge.
Yeah, it's big.
That's great for the team.
12th place from the new guy, Augustine Canapino.
Yeah.
No problem pronouncing the name now, right? Threw
Yeah.
it down, started 21st, kept it clean in a race. Let's face it, that was messy, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
this was a messy race in a lot of different ways. Starting 21st, he certainly had his higher than average opportunity to be in the mess.
Mm-hmm.
Brought this thing home 12th. This is a big deal to me, Tim.
This is
Right?
all.
Big
This is
deal or
all a
big
big
deal? This
deal.
is big deal.
This is a huge deal for Junco Hollinger, Campanino. Did I say that right? And
Canapino.
Canapino and Ilott. See, I still don't have it right.
Yeah.
Canapino. I'll get it right. Phenomenal job. I don't think you could have asked for any more out of this team, and obviously a rookie in his first start here on a street course. Bravo.
I think he comes from a similar racing background in supercars, which is where Scott McLaughlin came from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, so there's something there. He can wheel this car. I mean, it's high downforce versus what he's used to, but he can wheel it. That's for sure.
Yep.
There's another name you struggle with, Rahal Letterman Lanigan.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Right. Our fourth team, which is amazing, right? You would have expected me to pick this as my Power Five. Well, I don't have to now.
You don't have to. They're in the top five.
Yeah.
With they're in the top four
finish. Yeah. With Graham Rahal. Tim, if Graham didn't always have to drive through the field from low down teens or 20th position, which is where he came from yesterday, I think he'd have more than his 6 career race wins. Oh yeah, I can say that.
Yep.
6 total wins from Graham in the time that he's been IndyCar. Do you know how long has that
been? It's been a long time.
You know how many starts he's got?
I don't, but it's got to be way up there.
Is it more than 200? Is it less than 250? Is it more than 250? Less than 300?
It's less than 250.
Wrong. More than it's 259. 259 starts.
That's amazing.
And he
came in the same time Marco did, right? Weren't they both coming in at the same time?
I think somewhere near there, yeah. He has 3 poles. So not a great single lap guy.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but he's a hell of a racer on race day because this is what he's been saddled with for the last several seasons, right? He pulls a 6th place out of 20th.
He started 20th
in a messy race.
Yeah, they didn't look good again on qualifying.
They looked better.
They looked a little better. They looked even better in practice.
Yeah.
And then it kind of fell off in qualifying, and this is what you get, a top 4 team out of a Rahal 6th place, which that's going through the field. That's, a lot of what Callum Ilott did, right? Kept his nose clean, raced well, went through the field and got a good finish. So, he's got to be happy with that.
Yeah. 9th place, Christian Lundgaard, picking up right where he left off last year, but wasn't looking like it in the earlier sessions. I liked a tweet on Twitter that I saw that suggested the 45 car was cursed because he was struggling. And here's the deal. I'm going to call this free practice, right? Because that's what they call it in F1. But the first practice, Lundgaard was 25th. Jack was 17th. Second practice, he was 14th. Jack was 12th. Christian qualified 11th. And unfortunately, Jack qualified 19th. Right, Jack ended up finishing in 22nd. He got caught up in a melee, but it was a fresh start. Looked good right from the beginning. I felt it looked good, and was going to be good. But something happened in qualifying, which I saw suggested that it was a sticky throttle.
Yeah,
which is interesting to me. So
you don't want that on a road course,
no,
or a street course. You don't want it on any course, but definitely not on a street course. You think back of Detroit 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
When
Felix.
Yeah, you had Felix.
Almost went over the wall. Yep.
Yeah.
In the Arrow McLaren. Yeah.
So that explains a lot on qualifying. So you figure if you just kind of sit back and look at that, you go, okay, he would have qualified much better if he didn't have that issue.
Yeah. Could have. Right. Could have. Nonetheless, his day was finished early. He got caught up with a situation with Rinus VeeKay and Kyle Kirkwood. Jack subsequently made the trip to the hospital, reported soon after that he was fine but sore. Kirkwood went over the top.
Yeah,
Jack.
just
2 cars in the air.
yeah, I know. Just
Right?
sailed it.
Yeah. Tim, if Jack Harvey didn't have bad luck at Ray Hall, he wouldn't have any luck at all. So
I know. Plus, he
I
was
feel
hurt a little bit. I know he's feeling better, but he was pretty banged up from that, and that's scary seeing that car go over.
yeah, yeah.
And then the damage to the
That
car
car was
afterwards.
wrecked.
Just
I mean, it was
yeah, it was
wrecked. It was really
yeah,
bad. Yeah.
mangled.
I feel bad for Jack. I'm optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic. But I think that this team is turning it around, and we'll see.
Yeah, I think they're gonna do. I think they'll do fine. This was a fairly good showing. They didn't get out of qualifying very well, but Lundgaard did.
Yeah.
And I expect Harvey based on his practice times. I think he's going to do well, and I'm glad he's going to be okay for Texas. Bring him out there, and everybody probably knows he missed Texas last year because of an injury. So I'm glad he wasn't injured.
Yeah. So that's the 4. Why don't you want to kick it off with your power fifth?
Yeah, I do. Like
Tell
my
you how you're
fifth
wrong.
team, I'm gonna keep Roger out of this, and I'm gonna go with
Uh-oh.
Andretti Autosport.
Oh, okay.
They're my other Power 5 team, and there's a few reasons for it. Pace, phenomenal. They all had wonderful pace. All the cars were buttoned up. Even Devlin, from a perspective, he did all right when it came to qualifying. But you got to look at what Kirkwood had.
He did all right in qualifying at 18th, and you're ready to retire Graham Rahal, who qualified 20th?
He did all right.
Oh,
Devlin did all right.
okay.
We'll give him an all right on that. When it's perspective to the rest of the team, no, he didn't. But you got Kirkwood, showed raw speed, pace, made silly mistake in qualifying, which it still didn't. He still qualified 5th, I think, at that point.
Because there was nowhere for him to go at that point. He was in the
he
fast
could have been 6th. He could have been 6th. But yes, you made it that far. You made it to the fast 6 in your first outing with Andretti. That's stout. And he's going to have
weekend, though, how fast those cars are, you would have been in the fast 6.
No, I wouldn't. I would have been in 18th.
With Devlin?
Yeah, exactly. I would have been in Devlin's shoes. And then Herta showed great pace. Obviously, he had an issue with the tires, but and then you've got you got your guy that you chose to win it. Led a lot of laps, Grosjean, and then got an incident that was not his fault. So
it wasn't, yeah.
That team,
even though our friend Gacker, right?
Oh,
which I'm going to talk about him a little bit. Gacker said to me, he goes, Grosjean's going to throw it away. He said it in his accent, so he said it really cool. But I was like, no, he'll be fine. And then he texted me. He's like, what'd I tell you?
And I don't think it was him throwing it.
Yeah.
When you look at that, man, it was where you need to back off. You can't. Scotty needed to say, you know what, I'm on cold tires, right?
And he owned up to it, which is a really good thing.
Very grown thing. So I have to go to Team Andretti, even though the finishes were not there. But overall, the team was there. They're back, as people had started anticipating based on what they did at Thermal. And so I've got to give it up to the Andretti crew. If they could have just, it was Andretti luck. It was bad luck for the race.
Yeah.
But I think, as you said, you have Kirkwood finished 15th, Grosjean 18th, Herta 20th, and Devlin, who went helicoptering through the air when he got T-bone, finished 25th.
Yeah. I mean, I felt horrible for Michael Andretti, and they kept showing him on the broadcast. I felt terrible for him because it was just slipping away. It was next man up, right? Like it was going to be, right, Grosjean. It was going to be or Kirkwood. It was going to be somebody. Those cars were strong. 3 out of 4 cars were strong, right?
It could have had the
and
top
it could
3
have been
spots.
any one of the absolutely. They were strong. They were studs, but just the silly things that happen. Kirkwood, no reason to be pushing like that. He wrecked on the warm-up lap, and he wrecked big. That was a lot of damage to that car on the warm-up lap going into the fast 6, right? To do his first real lap in anger.
Well, yeah. Well, you got to figure that start-finish line is behind that where he crashed. So he already took this green flag to go and get his first lap in on qualifying. So
correct. in
And
the
then
warm-up lap.
and
Never
that
should have,
hairpin or
right?
that whatever you want to call that
Yeah.
there on the runway.
Grosjean had this thing wrapped up. Pole, he would have won from pole. It certainly wasn't his fault. You agree with that.
Yeah.
And, Scott agreed with that, and he apologized after the race. And, Herta, another error.
Yeah, it is, right?
Devlin
That's
is Devlin,
disappointing.
right?
Yeah.
The best he could muster out of that car was 18th, and all his teammates were well within the
Yeah.
top 10.
He had some good practice times. Maybe that's what I was thinking of, not as
Maybe.
qualifying.
Yeah. Nonetheless, I think the squad's got it moving in the right direction. They need some luck.
Yeah.
They really do. Like I said in the beginning, the only one at Andretti that's happy is his insurance agent, because they got a lot of car damage they got to clean up.
Yeah, it was pretty bad for them. So that's my other top 5 team. I'm kind of curious what yours is. I'm kind of think I know what it is.
Who do you think it is?
Well, I think it's Penske.
It's not.
Oh,
it's Oriol Servia in the IndyCar safety team.
Oh my goodness.
Servia led 26 laps, all under yellow, which was 22 more than the eventual winner, but that's okay. You just got to lead the last lap, right? In all seriousness, did you happen to see on Twitter? I did tweet it from my account. I copied the Turn 4 podcast account so you can take a look at it on Twitter. Jay Fry, who's the president of IndyCar, he put out a video showing the damage to Benjamin Peterson's car, and it's significant. The tub is open in that area where like the feet and the legs are. That car is open, and that's of course the car that went underneath Devlin DeFrancesco that flipped him up into the air and spun him around. That 55 AJ Foyt tub is destroyed. That's not coming back from that. That's going to the junkyard. I'm incredibly thrilled to see that, or be told that he's okay. What a hell of a way to start your IndyCar career, though, with an accident of that magnitude. The other thing is, kudos to IndyCar for sticking to the aero screen, and determining that that's the right thing. Because if you look at that video that I posted, there's significant damage on that aero screen.
There is.
Now, if they'd have just gone with the halo, okay, so there could have been some help there, but there's a lot of damage on that aero screen.
And it held up really well. It's got a lot of marks on it. It's looks like some tire and then some green marks. So yeah, definitely a scary situation. And when you come around the corner and there's a car basically sitting sideways on the track, and you're trying to, woe it down as quickly as possible, but the energy, the inertia, everything that went on there to see Devlin's car go up in the air. We're, as IndyCar fans and as drivers and teams, like I think we're all fortunate that everybody escaped this weekend with no serious injuries, because there could have been some serious stuff. And kudos to the aero screen
off the ground.
I know,
big deal. All four wheels off the ground.
I know,
right? And everybody was okay. I'm sure that the posterior end of Mr. Kirkwood is probably a bit tender today, because he came down on that on those skid plates and that rear quote unquote suspension pretty bad. When he
same with Devlin, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, and Devlin's got to be feeling the same thing.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough.
Like I said, in all seriousness, I'm thrilled that everybody is okay. Seemingly, I did worry about Jack because of the concussion from last year. He talked about pain in his wrist, so he probably didn't have time enough to take his hands off the wheel, and we know that recoil is pretty significant. So, and then earlier, of course, the crash that started everything off was Elio, right? Was limping, and he had some ice and stuff like that. So,
so that is your 5th team.
It is my 5th team. IndyCar, no joke. IndyCar safety team. Kudos to you. Kudos to Steps Towing and Recovery. Our buddy Richard, who I would have spent some time with this weekend, but Mother Nature had other plans.
Yeah,
Tim, I say that because I was going to point out the information that you mentioned about Andretti. I couldn't pick them because of what they had in their hand. Golden opportunity to turn it all around, right? To really deliver on the promise of thermal and Sebring and the whole weekend leading up to this race, and it just fell apart.
Yeah, I don't
for them, not of their own doing, but it fell apart.
So that's where I
what if
disagree.
Grosjean would have backed off? He had a better car, better tires.
He had it wasn't his. It was not his position to back off. In
True,
that,
but what if he did?
if he
He'd still
did,
been in it.
he would have still been in it. He probably would have got Scotty at some point, maybe.
And what
I
happened to
don't.
Colton Herta?
He thought
Another
there was
missed
a spot.
opportunity.
There wasn't a
Yeah,
spot. Willpower hit him off. Right? So
yeah,
willpower hit him
yeah.
off, and he got a penalty. It was not his fault either.
It's in that same spot, right? Which is funny because who was on the outside? Herta.
Herta
Who was on the
outside.
outside? Grosjean.
Mm-hmm.
But in the case of Herta, it was right. It's still Power's fault.
It's
It's
Power's
still
fault. Yeah.
McLaughlin's fault, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What if you had backed off?
Hey,
Live to
I
race
think
another day.
I think the series is so tight. It's so competitive. If you got any sort of chance to make a move, you got to do it. You got to be smart about it, but you got to make that move when the opportunity arises. And I think when you look at Herta's, it was I didn't see that opportunity as clearly as I saw the opportunity for Grosjean, because Grosjean, that was the time. Herta,
Yeah, that
maybe
was the
not so
winning
much.
moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. A couple other observations.
After you
Willpower
take a
finished
drink of your
seventh. Yeah.
of
Willpower
your
finished
coffee.
seventh, which was the best Penske finisher.
Mhm.
Think about that for a minute. Willpower seventh, best Penske finisher.
Give it up
McLaughlin
for Will though.
finished
He kept it clean.
13th. Yeah, kept it. I mean, he had the little bumpy there.
He had the
with,
little bump, but he recovered
Herta.
from that and
Yeah.
wasn't overzealous.
Yep. McLaughlin recovered, right? Finished 13th. Newgarden had a fire, finished 17th. I really didn't see much else of Newgarden's, race until the fire, and until he was on fire, right?
Yeah.
And I mean that like literally, not metaphorically. Both Buscaros though had uncharacteristic, difficult starts to the weekend, right? McLaughlin brushed the wall 3 times. Joseph did it twice, and Joseph's, this drives me crazy, so I have to say it. Joseph storming off after qualifying because they couldn't get him a clear lap. Good. Okay, dude. Most other people couldn't either, right?
Yeah.
It left some dude hanging in the paddock there on the high 5, which I think is rotten.
He was
rotten
marching
timing
off.
for the dude, but Joseph, not a great look.
I agree.
First race of the season, right? You're not going to win the championship on this first race of the season. You can throw it away on the first race of the season, but that's the thing. Okay, so shoot for 10. You got what? How many more chances? 16? You still got a chance at your 10, right? Look at Will Power and take some lessons from that on how he maximized every opportunity while not getting too down, not getting too up when it's just not your weekend, right?
Yeah.
You just got to roll with it. And that wins you a championship. Will, for Joseph, is the best example. Will won that championship last year with 1 race, and nobody had more race wins than Joseph Newgarden and still lost.
I know, but I think you come off of a season where you think you should have won the championship based on how many wins you had. You had 5 wins last year, and maybe expect a little more out of the weekend, and it just wasn't there. And
weekend. Stop
I
being.
know,
Don't.
and it's
don't
the
look
first
like
though.
that.
You want to
It's
get
not a
off on
great
the right
look.
foot. You just
It's
want to
not a
get off
great
on
look.
the. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's not a
I
great
no
look.
complaints on that.
A couple other observations from what it looks like this weekend. Foyt Racing is still way behind the competition. Ferrucci finished 24th after starting 17th. He was, of course, caught up in the first lap mess, but still he started 17th. And frankly, and you're going to be shocked that I'm saying this, he started 17th probably purely based on talent and force of will. He's talented, there's no doubt. I've never denied that, right? Character. Peterson started 27th of 27 and finished there because he was caught up in that big wreck as we talked about. So looks like they got some work to do at Foyt, right?
Can we talk about the hair? You think he's?
I don't want to talk about that.
Can you just cut it, please?
You could.
I don't think he wears it well. I don't even know what that is.
There's no way to wear that hair well. Do you know how I know this? I had a brown version of that in elementary school. There isn't much you can do with that hair. Okay. So when you say, my hair is thinning, it is thinning. There's no doubt. Thank God. Right?
Yeah, because
Thank God.
otherwise it just like does
It's
whatever it
actually,
wants
yeah,
to do.
reasonably tamed
Yeah,
due to the thinning.
I don't
So
know.
yeah.
It's got to go.
Yeah.
There's got to be something else there.
Hey, did you notice that Hy-Vee has a sweepstakes?
They're
They're
giving away a
advertising.
Corvette. I did.
Yes. Do you think they're aware that the Hy-Vee car that they sponsor is a Honda?
That's perfect.
I'm a soda pop salesman, but I do a little bit of marketing, and those are just a couple of things I think of. Why
That is
not
a
an
little
NSX?
bizarre. Yeah.
Although in the heartland, right, of where their stores are, I don't think an NSX would resonate
Garner
as
as
much with
much
their
attention.
with their general population. So,
Yeah. The only reason I knew they were doing it is because I heard my wife yelling, scan the barcode, scan the QR code.
that's awesome.
And I was like, really?
That's awesome.
But I love your observation because that is
yeah.
so true.
And finally, I'm okay with a pissed off but still unnecessarily polite Rinus VeeKay. His interview, he stood and did the interview, unlike Joseph Newgarden at the Premier team. He stood and did the interview. He was pissed off. He was still polite. He was still nice about it. Right?
He was.
There you go.
Are you pointing another driver in that direction to say, look at this?
Yeah, Joseph Newgarden.
All right, good. I just want to make sure that's where you're
Joseph
going with
an
this.
F.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I listened to the interview with Rinus. You were absolutely right. He was super polite about the situation, but obviously angry with what took place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Livid. So he didn't have a free track. He didn't have a open track space to deliver a good qualifying lap either, but he didn't storm off like a
baby. Yeah, I think he gains from you gain some fans going out like that and doing the right thing. So I think his accounts must have ticked up when it came to followers for sure after that, because it's just the gentleman. It's the right thing to do.
Yeah. We got a few other. We're gonna hit some bullets on F1, but I do want to just kind of get your opinion on one thing. Did you see where Mark Miles was saying that we're gonna have a evolution to the Dallara DW12 next year, and that it's not an old car? We should have changed the name years ago. It's all new. There isn't anything on this car that was there in 12. You buying it?
No, I think it's a marketing spin.
Me too. I'm curious to see what the evolution of this car is going to be, because it's still going to have that ugly tub.
It is.
And it's still going to be overweight. More so because they're going to add a battery to it.
Yeah, it is, right? I just think you could narrow it out a little bit, the front end of it on the tub. Something needs to happen with that. But I'm sure there's modifications to take into account for the weight, for the extra room.
Bulkhead, I think
but it's not going to be
some bulkheads and stuff.
It's not a new car. It's still the same.
It's not. Yeah.
Same mold, right? We call it the same mold. Yeah.
Sure is. You want to talk F1?
That's IndyCar, right? That's our IndyCar. That was good.
Over to F1 a little bit.
It was a great, I do a little bit, but I have to say it was
I enjoyed St. Pete.
You enjoyed what? St. Pete? I enjoyed it. Yeah. I totally enjoyed it too. It was entertaining. And it was good racing. A few too many incidences for me, just from a standpoint of driver safety and just making sure that
cadence, right? Like keeping it,
cadence too. Yeah. I thought you were telling me to hurry up. But yeah,
I was
cadence.
telling you that minutes ago, but you haven't picked up on
it. But yeah, great race. So let's move on to F1.
Hey, foregone conclusion that Red Bull win this driver and manufacturer title?
Yes.
Wow. Interesting. I don't know that I disagree. I really don't. I don't know that I disagree based on how everybody else looked.
Can I talk a little bit about that just for a second?
Of course you can. It's your show.
Because we had it on, of course, and we watched. I got to watch the start, right? That's where all the action happens, right at the start, and maybe something in the middle, and then the end's already done. But it's 2-3 laps in, and you got a 5-second lead.
This race was a turd until Leclerc fell out, right? It really was.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
absolutely. It was. I got up and was doing other things around the house. Couldn't watch it.
I watched it. I wish I had watched it on delay. Will Mercedes finish behind Ferrari?
Um, well, potentially.
Okay. It's a way to
I'm
hedge.
I'm a
Let's
potential
get you
on
off the
this.
fence here.
Well,
Will
yeah, please
Mercedes
talk.
finish behind Aston Martin?
I want to say absolutely,
Will Ferrari finish behind Aston Martin?
potentially.
Lord, back on the fence. I don't know. I'm with
concerned.
you. I have the same thing. I think that Total Wolf is already like laying the groundwork, like from a PR perspective, that they're going to have a concept change sometime early this season. And if they do make a concept change to that Mercedes, I would suspect that if they're going to go out on a limb and do that, they're going to hit it. Right? They're going to hit it. They're going to hit that bullseye.
I don't know.
Ferrari has a car. I'm worried about Ferrari's reliability.
Mhm.
So, is this DNF with Leclerc something to be concerned about?
Absolutely.
They had engine trouble last year, right? And
Mhm.
we were told that they were running a detuned engine because they had some reliability that they weren't able to get to last year. So maybe this is a one-off, maybe it isn't. But he also had a battery change before this race, and it's the first race of
Yeah,
the season. They only
like
have
on the
two.
grid or something.
Yeah,
Talking
yeah,
about
yeah.
it. Yeah.
So, this is a conversation I had with our buddy Gacker. Will Aston Martin get a win this season, Tim? Fast Freddy in the Aston Martin?
So my whole concern with Aston Martin is that they're running Mercedes engines, right?
Mhm.
So how does that program work? Do they get
Completely
detuned
independent.
engines?
No. They get a full-on supply, same thing that Mercedes has, and they have their own engineering team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will they get a win this season? You asked me.
Yeah.
Based on how they looked at round one, yes.
You want to know what Gacker said?
I do want to know what Gacker said.
Only if Red Bull has a reliability issue.
Or an incident, right? One of the
Yeah.
two.
Yep. Like I said, race was a bummer.
And he's a Red Bull fan, right?
He is a Red Bull fan.
That's right. I thought that's what he was wearing.
Until that Ferrari retirement and Alonso turned it up. That's when it got exciting for me. Congratulations to Max and the Red Bull team on finally delivering a win in Bahrain for Max after 10 tries. I was surprised after that too.
Yeah, surprised about that.
One thing I'm going to say, I watched the 90-minute pre-race show, which nobody needs a 90-minute pre-race show. Jeez.
You did?
Yeah, I watched all of it.
I thought you were out running.
I went for a run. It was still too icy, so I came home. I went for a run in the afternoon.
Oh.
After
you're like, I'm going out for a run. I was like, all right, dude.
Yeah. It was still
so if you went out for a run, there's no way you watched. So I was checking your timeline.
Yeah. So I came back. Yeah, I came back and watched it. In particular, the paint, because these cars are not vinyl wrap. The paint on that F1 on the Mercedes is badass. It really looks good. It really looks good. Oh,
you saw that in the pre-show?
Yeah, and then same with the Aston, that green and the whole the whole deal. In fact, I think honestly, I think the Red Bull probably has the least appealing livery to me now.
Unless you see it live. The Red Bull popped.
You got it. The Aston Martin popped live.
That green, not as much as Red. I was shocked by the Red Bull when I was there.
So, Q1 first qualifying session, the Q1 qualifying session, the whole grid was covered by a little over a second first to last.
Wow, I didn't know that.
That's what Anthony Davidson said. Wrote it down.
That's odd for F1.
Yeah, I know.
Really odd.
I know, yeah, especially, right?
Yeah.
Cars look good. I like it. One quick NASCAR note before we finish.
Can we talk about their opener just a little bit more? I know we're trying to wrap this up. Yeah. I like what IndyCar does with their opener. It's in St. Pete.
20,
palm trees,
all you need.
Beautiful. You see water, especially for us that live in the northern states. And when you think of F1, a lot of people live in northern states as well because they're not states, northern countries, because it's cold and whatnot. And then you go to Bahrain and you run at night, and it doesn't give that appeal, right? It doesn't draw me like I want to watch because it's sunny, it's nice, it's spring's almost here, I can feel it coming. I got that feeling watching St. Pete. Didn't for F1.
Yeah.
And I think
I'm with you
It's
there.
not
Good
hurting them, but
observation.
I like
Yeah.
what IndyCar's doing more than when it comes to that than what
Yeah.
F1's doing.
I have to say this before I move off the F1 section. So we started watching Drive to Survive. Have you watched it yet?
I can't. I
So
I watched a little
we have
bit.
two left, two episodes left.
Yeah.
My bride, um, my love, my life of 30 years, said to me, "I want to like Max, but I can't."
Hmm.
She likes Lewis.
Oh,
I
why
am.
doesn't she like Max?
We haven't spoken since. Didn't ask. Don't care.
You haven't spoken. Okay. It's interesting.
I kid. But yeah, that's my wife's observation based on Drive to Survive. She said that Lewis is much like warmer. He plays the fans a little bit more, and you know, so she likes
Well,
that.
when we saw him at
Max
Austin,
isn't.
he was very,
Oh yeah,
very good in front of the crowd and
but he
talking with
came out
everybody.
separate from his teammate.
He did, but when he was out there,
Separate from his
he
teammate,
I
unlike
know,
anybody else.
but I don't know what the reason. I think it's just a scheduling conflict.
It's kind of weird, don't you think? Scheduling, so the 5 minute, overlap from being out there with your teammate
Yeah,
was a problem.
yeah, yeah. It could have been something was going on outside of his control, but he was very. I don't want to say entertaining, but he was. I felt like he was very
He was
gracious.
engaging, very engaging.
Yeah, engaging is the right word. He was very engaging, and I think he was genuinely happy to be there and happy to talk to people. It wasn't like, oh, this is something I just have to do. So back to your first bullet point. Is it a foregone conclusion that Red Bull wins the driver and manufacturer title? Do you know who else thinks that they're going to win besides me, who said yes?
Biscuit?
George Russell. He's quoted saying that.
It's awesome. I love it. Is he positioning himself for Checo's seat? Because
I don't know what
he's got to
he's
realize
doing.
that Daniel Ricciardo's going back in that chair.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing, but yeah.
What? My bride is also not a fan of George Russell.
Really? I kind of like him.
Nope.
I don't know about that comment though. That's kind of a weird comment. I don't know why you'd make that.
About what?
But him saying Red Bull's going to win it all.
Oh yeah, I know.
Especially the
Yeah,
first
flattery,
race.
I guess. I don't know. Get in their head. So that's all I have on F1. I got one more thing.
All right, let's do it.
We're gonna
We got
finish the show
NASCAR?
on a NASCAR comment.
Holy moly. Let's do
I
it.
can't believe it. Chase Elliott. All right. Best of luck and on the mend. Broke his leg skiing over the weekend, which means he didn't make the race. Not sure how long he'll be out or when he'll be back. I guess
You know which
what I
leg?
should say. Nope.
Okay.
Big deal, Tim, or big deal?
That's a big deal.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
I saw as many Twitter comments about he should have never been there, and Twitter of he's a young guy, leave him alone. He deserves to go skiing. Right? I saw just as many of each. I want to see you spit that out so bad. I saw just as many of both, and it aggravates me. Because here's the thing, I don't know where I come down on that, but I have a very I have what would be considered a very reasonable job, right? Very conventional job. My boss is not looking at me going, "You better not go skiing this weekend, because if you can't show up for our staff meeting on Monday, give me help pay."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know.
But I also don't generate millions of dollars and millions of impressions for, the people. I don't have anything sewn on my shirt, right? Nobody cares if I don't show up to the, to the race or whatever.
I kind of have an opinion on this, but I don't know if it's the right opinion. Not that I'm
it's
trying
an
to do
opinion. It is the right opinion. It's the right
doesn't
opinion
have
for
to be
you.
right. I don't know if I'd be out doing that either. But
almost feels like common sense, right?
Yeah. Just because you just started a new season, but if you've been skiing for years, you don't think you're going to go out and break your leg, right?
No.
It's like all these drivers that go out and cycle, you don't think you're going to go out and cycle and get struck by a car and get hurt or what?
Lance Stroll.
Yeah, you don't think that's going to happen.
Had a wipeout, right? Broke his wrists.
Yeah.
Wrists and his toe last year.
So you can't go work out.
Fast Freddie Alonso.
Yeah.
Got hit by a car
So,
on his bike,
hmm
right?
I think it's life, right? Life happens, things happen. Sometimes you make poor decisions that, set you back a little bit, but at the end of the day, I don't know, he'll be fine. Who'd they put in the
Yeah.
car? Does anybody know? I don't
Don't
know.
know.
Hmm,
Tweet us.
yeah.
Let us know. That's all I got, Tim.
It was fun. I'm super
Good to
excited
see
about
you.
the season.
So am
Now we
I.
got to take a
Got a
short
month off.
off season till we get to the next race, right? We got to take a little
Texas.
short off season. Yeah. But it was good. I enjoyed the race. It was much more entertaining than that F1. And Marcus wins it, which is, I think, a surprise to some, but not all. And the Swedes out front. I like it.
I like it. That's all I got.
Well, that's all I got too.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for listening as always. Be sure to tell your friends about us, subscribe, wherever it is that you listen to your podcast. We appreciate you tuning in as always. Episode 60, and looking forward to 60 more, Timmy.
Yeah. Wow. Seems like a lot, but
Yeah.
we got it.
We do. Go get it. Have a nice night, everybody. We'll see you.
Take care.